Well, right now it's the end of January 2022. A lot of snow on the ground. It's like 8 degrees where I'm at right now. Super cold. But there's one thing about it. Eventually it's going to warm up. When it gets warm, what does that mean? Music festival season. State fairs, concert shows. You know, these entertainers, they want to get out and perform. That's how they make their money. And it takes a big crew to do it. One thing they need is drivers. Have you ever wondered, how do you get into driving a tour bus? Well, let's go inside and let me tell you how I got. So it's 2022. Tour season is going to get kicked off pretty quick. This is January. So by, March, April, May, all these artists are going to be out on tour. 2022 is probably the best year you're ever going to have to get started as a co-driver in the entertainer industry, if that's what you want to do. First of all, what you have to do is figure out, how much do I want to work? Do I just want to do 1 or 2 co-drives a month, make an extra $1,000 a month, help pay for my golf? Or do I want to try to make it a career? Do I want to eventually work up, have my own bus, have my own tour? That's what you have to figure out. Now, back when I started, it was very difficult. I live way up in the UP of Michigan. I'm 14 hours from Nashville. So I was just pounding my head against the walls trying to figure out, how do I get started? You go online on these blogs or whatever, everybody says, oh, you got to go to Nashville. You got to go to Nashville and talk to them. And that's great. I would highly recommend that. But you can go online, All Access, Diamond Coach, Pioneer, Celebrity, Hemphill Brothers. Go online. Most of them have a link where you can fill out an application. Now, what license do you have to have and what experience do you have to even be considered for a co-driver? Well, first of all, you have to have a minimum Class B with a P endorsement. You have to have passenger endorsement. But if you want to work, you need a Class A. Class A, you can pull the trailers. Now, when I was doing co-drives, when I first got started, even after I had my full seat, on my days off, I'd still do co-drives, help pay the bills. And, probably 90, if not 95% of the co-drives I did, I was pulling a trailer. And if you want to stay busy and make money, that's what you need to do. You need to have a Class A with a P endorsement for passenger. That way you can pull a trailer. Okay, so let's say you've got the Class B with a P endorsement, or better yet, you've got a Class A with a P endorsement where you can haul a trailer. You still have to have some type of experience. Okay, they're not going to just hire you just because you went to trucking school and just got a Class A with a P endorsement. They need people with experience. Now, like with me, I'd had 7, 8 years experience driving seated coaches in the UP of Michigan, basically like working for Greyhound, doing line runs. And I had a lot of winter driving experience. That was a plus. The first company that hired me when I went to Nashville was Pioneer. And it took me over a year, I guess, to get on with them. I was every week sending emails to every company, hey, my name's Jeremy. I got this many years experience driving, motor coaches, seated coaches. I've got winter driving experience, this and that. I've got a Class A. What you have to remember, no matter how much experience you've got, these companies, they don't care. They don't know who you are until the day they need you. The day they need you is, you're the most important person in the world to them. But you still have to prove that you're an asset. You have to have experience, whether it's, if you're a truck driver, you've got so many years, Class A driving a tractor trailer or, driving a bus. You still have to have experience. They're not going to just hire you straight out of trucking school to drive a motor coach, because these are very high-end clients. You're driving, $1 million plus, motor coaches. They're very, very nice. And they're not going to let just any average Joe jump behind the wheel and take off down the road. All right, one thing to consider, where do you live? What location are you at around the country? Say you want to work out of Nashville, say you want to, do mostly, the country music, weekend warrior thing, we call it. You know, like with me, I live in the UP of Michigan. It's, for me to book a flight to Nashville is, on a good week, is $900. Normally it's $1,000. And like once I first got on the Pioneer, I wasn't getting the work. You know, I wasn't getting the calls. You know, even though they were busy, they needed co-drivers. You know, finally one day I called Neville at Pioneer and I'm like, you know, why am I not getting any phone calls? And he's like, well, you live in the UP of Michigan. It costs so much to book a flight, you know, to get you back and forth, to get you home. You know, there's guys that live a lot closer. So you have to think about that. What I actually ended up doing was basically going to Nashville. You know, I loaded up 2 or 3 suitcases in the back of my car. You know, I told my wife, I'll be home when I can be. And I'm going to Nashville. I went down, walked into Neville's office. I'm like, okay, I'm here. You know, keep me busy. You know, the days I'm not working, I'm going to be sitting up in Jolton and, you know, in the motel, you know, spending money. Once he realized that I was actually there to work, you know, he kept me busy. I mean, I was doing 7 days a week. You know, some days I'd be doing 2 different tours in one day. You know, but you have to be flexible if you want to make a living doing this. And, you know, another thing is once you get in, you know, once you become a co-driver and they start putting you with, you know, full seat drivers and you go out with these guys, keep your mouth shut. You know, don't go on the bus with an attitude. You know, don't go on, you know, if you're all stargazing and this and that, you know, you get all excited around entertainers, you're not going to last. You know, it's just not going to work. You know, yeah, you get on a bus, you know, it's been there, done that a million times, boss. You know, nothing excites me. You know, I'll do my thing. You know, keep your mouth shut, do your job, be an asset to the lead driver. You know, you go out on a tour with a lead driver, you may only be doing an 8-hour co-drive and then they're going to drop you off at an airport and you're going to fly to your next co-drive, or you're going to fly back to Nashville or fly home, whatever. But be an asset to that driver while you're there. You know, if he stops for fuel, get out, wash his windshield. You know, make life easier for him. You know, wash his windshield, take out the trash. The trash, being a driver is probably half of the job. The other half's taking out the trash and cleaning counters and mopping floors and cleaning up after the band and the guys on the bus. That's the job. That's the way it is. But be an asset to that driver. You know, don't try to be buddy-buddy with the band or the entertainer. If he happens to be on board, he or she, you know, happens to be on board, don't try to be buddy-buddy with them. You know, your job is to be the co-driver. When you're not behind the wheel, yeah, it's cool to sit in the jump seat. You know, you got great big leather, you know, jump seats. I mean, it's very more comfortable than you have at your own house. You know, you can sit over there, you know, hang out with the driver, talk to him a little bit, and then say, you know what, yeah, I ain't gonna go back here and climb in a bunk and grab some Z's. You know, that's what they want to see. You know, when you're not driving the bus, disappear. You know, don't be hanging out up front. You know, don't be hanging out in the front lounge with the band and the you know, the crew and the entertainer. When you're not driving the bus, go back and crawl in a bunk. You know, they give you an assigned bunk. You know, anytime you're a co-driver on a bus, you're going to have a bunk to sleep in. Disappear. You can go lay in that bunk, you can play on your phone, you can take naps, whatever. As far as they're concerned, if you're in your bunk, you're sound asleep. They don't know the difference, you know. Just disappear. Make them think whenever it's your turn to drive that you're well rested, good to go. Man, I slept like a baby for 8 hours. Okay. Along with being an asset, pay attention. Okay, say you're doing a co-drive on a tour, you know, you're going to a venue. You know, say they picked you up at airport in the middle of the night, you know, you're going to a venue, and after you're set up the next day, then you're going to get on a plane and, you know, fly somewhere else. Watch what the lead driver does when you get to the venue. Okay, there's a process. You know, you don't just go in, pop the brake on a bus, you know, good to go. You know, there's a process these guys go through. They have a load in. Say it's a 10 a.m. load in. And say you're pulling a trailer. You know, you're going to come up to the venue, you know, whether you park out front, whether there's a ramp out back, whatever, you're going to pull up, you're going to park the bus. Watch the lead driver. He's going to squat the bus down. You know, you don't want, you know, that much room where the, you know, the guys are stepping off and tripping. They're going to squat the bus down. They're going to level it up. You know, these buses they're nice. They have air leveling. There's a little button down there. You push it to, and a little level bubble. You know, you watch it, and you're going to get the bus down. You're going to level it. You know, you want, a lot of times they want maybe the front end down just a little bit, so the water off the AC units, you know, runs off. But everybody does it a little bit differently. All these lead drivers do it a little bit differently, but watch what they do. You know, they're going to get the bus leveled up, get it settled in. There's always a carpet that goes outside the door. You know, they've got a certain spot underneath the bus where they keep the carpet rolled up. You know, watch how they do it. You know, you unroll the carpet, you lay it out, you know, grab a rag, you know, polish the chrome mirrors. You know, drivers love a shiny bus. You know, get out, you know, they may have bugs on the windshield, wash the windshield, whatever, wipe the chrome down. A clean bus is a beautiful bus and one you take pride in. That's the kind of things you got to learn. If the lead drivers say he's got to do a Genie service, you know, service a generator, watch how he does it. That is critical, because one day, whenever you end up with your own bus, you're going to need to know how to service that generator. You know, all buses have at least one. Some have two. You know, they'll alternate them, you know, sometimes, or maybe they'll never use the second one. They only use the one. But every, you know, so many hours, they have to service a generator, you know, change out the oil filter, change the oil, change out the fuel filter. You're going to want to watch how they do that. And, you know, in the engine compartment, you know, serpentine belts break all the time. I don't know how many serpentine belts I broke over the years. You know, ask them, you know, ask the driver, say, hey, you know, you mind if I pick your brain a little bit? You know how to do this and this? You know, a good lead driver will give you information. They'll help you. But there again, soak up every bit of information that you can. Because if you plan on doing this for a career and sticking with it, you're going to need to know all this. You know, you're going to need to know how to use the TV remote control to operate the 5 TVs throughout the bus. You know, I mean, you just about have to be an electrical engineer to figure out. I still don't know how to operate the remote control on the TV. You know, usually you've got, in the front lounge, you got at least 2 TVs, you know, big screen TVs. You have to know how to operate them. You know, most of them have like direct TV, you know, satellite TV on them. You have to know how to operate the TV. And there's a million things to learn. You know, aside from driving is, you have to be so smooth. You know, these buses almost drive themselves. You know, they are so smooth. Acceleration, the braking, the steering. I mean, you literally drive them with 3 fingers. You don't hold it like, you know, you're driving a tractor trailer. You know, you've got, you know, 3 fingers, you just guide it down the road. These things are so smooth, so high tech, you know, so much electronics on them. You know, Wi-Fi, you know, the direct TV, all this stuff. You need to learn how to operate that. You know, so one day, you know, a year down the road, you get the call from the boss, you know, hey, you know, I've got a full seat come open. You interested? You need to know how to do that. You need to know how to hook up the shore power and not fry everything on the bus. You know, there's a certain process you need to go through in order to hook up the shore power without damaging anything. Those are the things you need to pay attention to while you're a co-driver. All right, so let's do a little recap here. So to begin with, you got to get the job. Okay, go online, better yet, go to Nashville. You know, take 2 or 3 days if you can go to Nashville, hit the major coach companies. You know, go around to them, fill out an application in person, try to talk to the driver coordinator, you know, who's in charge. Use the word co-driver. They love co-drivers. You know, you're not just gonna walk in and get a full seat gig. You don't want a full seat gig, trust me. You want to start out as a co-driver. There's so much you have to learn about not just the industry, but the coach, the motor coach. You know, these are very luxurious vehicles, and you have to learn a lot about them before you even think about getting a full seat, okay? So first of all, you know, fill out applications, send them emails. If you can, go to Nashville, you know, go in, try to get an appointment, you know, with the boss man, with the coordinator. You know, go in, sit down and talk to them. You know, say, look, you know, I want to learn. I want to be a co-driver. You know, I'll stay as busy as you want me. That's what they're looking for, okay? Secondly, once you get that position, you know, that co-drive, be flexible. You know, hey, if they call you, You know, say, hey, can you be at the airport in 10 minutes? I need you to fly to Ohio. I got a bus sitting at a rest area. You know, the driver got sick. You know, I need somebody to go get that bus and rescue it and get these guys to the show. Do it. Keep a backpack packed. You know, I mean, I kept an overnight bag, my little suitcase, and my backpack packed all the time. You know, be flexible. You want to be the go-to guy. You want to be the guy that they call first. You know, if they call you, you know, 2 or 3 times, say, hey, you know, I got a co-drive coming up in a couple of weeks. You're like, well, you know, my kid's got a softball game or this or that, or, you know, I'd like to take a week or 2 off, you know, just kind of chill out. If they call you a couple of times and you turn down the co-drive, guess what? You go to the bottom of the list. They may have 30, 40 co-drivers on the list. You go from up toward the top to the bottom real quick. Be flexible. I mean, you may not want to do the co-drive. Do it anyway. It's money in your pocket. You know, you're making, I don't even know what co-drivers make now. I mean, probably a minimum $300, you know, for a co-drive. And it may just be overnight. You know, you may drive, you may get on they may have a car come pick you up in Nashville, drive you to Knoxville. You know, they got a tour coming in from New England, but the driver doesn't have enough time to get all the way back to Nashville. So you may have a car come pick you up, take you to, say, Knoxville. You get on the bus, drive the bus from Knoxville to Nashville, which is nothing, and you just made a few $100. You know, be flexible. The next thing, pay attention. Watch everything. You know, watch how the band interacts with the driver. You know, watch how the driver interacts with the band. You know, watch how the driver drives. That is critical to learn how to drive these coaches. That's huge. You have to be smooth. Watch how these other drivers do it. You know, you may be with a lead driver who doesn't drive that smooth. You know, not all lead drivers are that great. You know, some are, some aren't. You know, learn what to do, what not to do, okay? But the biggest thing is just, once you get in the door, learn. You know, you may end up being a co-driver for 2 or 3 different companies. And trust me, in 2022, when tour season kicks off, it's going to be nuts. I mean, like I said before, these guys, these entertainers, they want to tour. You know, they've been locked down for a couple of years, just like the rest of us. That's how they make their money. They have to get out in front of the fans. You know, so they're going to want to get out and tour. Don't turn down co-drives. If you want to be successful at this, and you can easily, you can make $100 grand a year, no problem. You know, you really can, but you got to hustle. So anyway, guys, I hope this video, you know, showed you a little bit. This is just my view on it. It's not the way it works. It's different for everybody. But hey, I mean, if this helps you out a little bit, great.